Hello, scumbags. Andrew Fantasia here, and I've got the high ground. But guess what? The high ground is even higher than normal this time because we are using it to talk about the High Republic. Let's get right into it. So the first High Republic stories have finally hit the world. They're here for us to enjoy, or maybe not enjoy. I don't know. I'm not going to dictate what your tastes are. But I picked up The High Republic, A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland, and The High Republic, Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. Now, the first thing I should mention, it's something that I looked for, but these books didn't tell me, which is what order are you supposed to read these in? Because it's two things. What's chronological order is kind of important in Star Wars. And nowhere in these books does it say what order, but Charles Soule was very helpful. He tweeted the exact order. The way you should do it is you start with Light of the Jedi. That is the very first story in High Republic. And then you can do A Test of Courage, and then the comic, which is also available, but I didn't get because comics are expensive. Now, the way I read it was slightly different. Is I read, I wanted to experience them both at the same time, so I read about 5 words of this, and then I opened this and read about 5 words of that, and then hopped back to this, etc. I'm kidding. That would be silly. But no, I didn't know that this was supposed to be first, and I actually read this first because I got these at the same time, and I assumed I was going to like this better. So what I always do in a situation like this is I try to save the best for last. So I was like, well, let me start with the one that I think I might not enjoy as much. And that's what I did. So let's do the same thing and start with A Test of Courage. So first of all, with A Test of Courage being a young reader novel, I was expecting something more along the lines of this. Remember these? These are actually really beautiful. They had these really sleek covers and this sort of monochrome art going on here. And these were what I was expecting for something like A Test of Courage. But A Test of Courage is unlike any book we've gotten in Star Wars so far in terms of how it's laid out. Like when you slap them together, look how much smaller it is. Okay? And these old young readers novels here, these red and black ones, are already smaller than the average big novel. So they really shrunk this one down a size, and I was curious as to why that was. I'd never seen that before. But the reason is, I think at least, they want to accommodate the art. A Test of Courage has some great artwork inside, full color artwork on some nice glossy paper. They don't cheap out when they make Star Wars books, kids. This is not a spoiler, but if you don't want to see any of the art in this book, then maybe just turn away from your screen for a bit. But I'll show you a picture here that just kind of shows you what the characters are like, and one of the major problems that they're going to have to deal with. That's Vern. Well, there, that's Vernestra. She's pretty cool. She's a Padawan. She's green, but she's very, very smart. Even though she's very, very young, she's already worldly and wise. So what's A Test of Courage about? You got these characters here, and they're all stranded on a very dangerous moon. And that's pretty much it. That's the plot of A Test of Courage. And as you probably guessed, because it's a young reader's novel, they're all fairly young characters. I mean, these kids, I think the oldest one is Vernestra, and I think she's maybe 14, maybe. So it's about kids, for kids. It's kind of like the equivalent of a Goosebumps book, but just with lightsabers. Frankly, now that I think about it, a lot of Goosebumps books could have benefited from lightsabers. So R.L. Stine, are you listening? I know you aren't, but take notes. As we all know, of course, the High Republic is going to be the most interconnected thing Star Wars has ever done, even more so than Shadows of the Empire. So what does this have to do with the Grand High Republic story? Well, without spoiling that Grand High Republic story, we all know the villains of High Republic are these space Vikings called the Nile. Well, the reason these kids are stranded here, without getting into too much detail, is because of a real bad thing that the Nile do. And she, who is I guess you could call her our main character. Vern refers to a bunch of the other Jedi that she knows who we meet in other works of High Republic, such as Avar Kriss or Skier, the Trandoshan Jedi. She refers to them. I think 1 or 2 of them might even pop up at the end, maybe, as a cameo. Not going to tell you. But it fully feels like part of the High Republic world. It really does. It feels like if we had gotten this book in the Clone Wars era, it feels like, this could have been Barriss Offee. And then she's like, oh, well, Master Luminara told me once. And then she talks about what's going on at the Jedi Temple. It feels like it fits in there. But it's not just gratuitous name dropping for the sake of being a tie-in. The story that these kids are going through, the ship that they're on at the beginning, the backgrounds of all these characters, you really get a sense that those backgrounds play into the larger story, at least further down the line. Especially this girl here, Avon, I believe her name is. Avon, fun fact, her last name is Staros. So is she an ancestor of Sana Staros? All I know is my gut says maybe. But the things that Avon is doing and the things that Avon's mother is doing, even though we never meet Avon's mother, we hear about her, you get the sense like, ooh, that's important stuff. They're not just padding out the book to do some world building to make fans happy. That feels like Avon's mom, I would bet money on it, is going to pop up in a High Republic story, and she's going to play a significant role. That's just the feeling I got from reading this. So it doesn't feel like a gratuitous side story, which even though I really liked these books, they did feel that way. They did feel like gratuitous side stories that were just meant to be there as a commercial for The Force Awakens, which we didn't need because we were all going to go see The Force Awakens anyway. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the plot of this book was, not because it was so long ago, but because it really didn't impact the galaxy all that much. And this is the best one of those 3 books that they released. There was a Han one and a Luke one as well. At least this one, I remember, it was something to do with them finding a rebel base after Hoth. That's, at least there's that. I couldn't tell you what the other 2 were about. Han shoots a thing and Luke fights a guy. This feels like in the future, let's say 2.5 years from now, when we have a full High Republic library, that we could pick this out of the library and read it and have so much more insight, because at that point we would know how the story unfolds and we'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe in this book, John is being nice to everybody, when we know in like book 6, John turns into an evil dude and slaughters a whole bunch of folks, and he was here all along and they could have stopped him and they didn't. I really feel like that's the groundwork they're setting. A Test of Courage is a small story. It's a very short book. I finished this in about 2.5 hours. But it feels like it's just full of breadcrumbs. Nice little breadcrumbs for High Republic fans to devour, and then devour twice later on once they have the full picture. And there will be a series of these, just as there is a series of novels, a series of young adult novels, a series of comics. There's also going to be a series of these junior novels. And you know what? I like them. They're cute. They're almost pocket-sized. The Test of Courage, you're not bad. Then we get to the big daddy here. We get to Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. And I cannot tell you how excited I was to finally pick this up and read it, and how happy I was that it's one of the thicker books that the Star Wars canon novels have to offer. One thing that always weirded me out about the Star Wars novels is they're all sort of roughly the same length. It's like, does Del Rey tell them when you hit this page count, stop? I really don't understand that. Like look at this. Let me just reach over here for a second. Look at this book that I have on my shelf. Look at this monster. This is just a fantasy novel. It's totally unrelated. But look at that. Why don't we have Star Wars books that are that big? What? Give me a reason. Give me a reason why. Because it's too long? Well, clearly it's not too long. It can be done. It can be done. And there's nobody there's no hardcore Star Wars fan who's going to look at a Star Wars thing and be like, no, this is too much Star Wars. Nobody's going to do that. So why all the Del Rey novels are the same size, roughly, baffles me. I don't get it. But some are longer than others, not by much. Thankfully, some of my favorite ones, like Alphabet Squadron and Aftermath, they're a little bit chunkier because they got more going on in the story. This is one of those chunky ones, and I am so happy that that's the case. First of all, these covers, again, beautiful. The High Republic art, man, it's just eye candy. No pictures inside, but that's okay because we don't have room. We have something like 51 chapters, I think, of just non-stop High Republic action. What did I think of Light of the Jedi? This is world building in Star Wars like we've never seen before. And here's what I mean by that. Anybody out there who's ever read, let's say, the first Game of Thrones book, you pick up your first Game of Thrones book and you get 5 chapters in, and it feels like every chapter they tell you like the names of 20 new places and 20 new characters and 20 new royal houses and 20 new bits of information about their history. Like the Song of Ice and Fire saga is full of so much world building that you gotta wonder what kind of crack George R. R. Martin is snorting, and how can I get some myself, George? I'm a guy who just loves world building. It makes me happy. I appreciate it whenever it's done well. Star Wars does it better than everybody, but never quite so well in the books. World building in Star Wars books has always just been about, here's a character that you don't know or care about, like Skelly, and he's interacting with a character you do know or care about, like Hera. And here's a planet you may or may not know. That's how the books have always gone for me. This felt like I was reading the first book of Game of Thrones for the first time, where every other page it was introducing me to a new Jedi, or a new concept, or a new planet, or a new piece of lore that I had to sort of fit together into this jigsaw puzzle in my brain so I get a bigger, broader strokes idea of what the High Republic is. And goddamn, I friggin' love that. I love that. That is my favorite aspect of Light of the Jedi, how much world building it does, how it really, truly sets the table for this wonderful Thanksgiving banquet that is going to be the whole High Republic saga. However many books it'll end up being. They've never really clarified how long the High Republic story is going to be, or at least this story that they're telling right here. And it all revolves around this thing, the Starlight Beacon, which is going to open and going to create a network of connectivity throughout the galaxy. And there's this great little thing where the Chancellor of the Republic, her name is Lena So, she has built the Starlight Beacon to great expense. It's cost a lot of money and a lot of work and effort. And she believes it's going to create a new way for the galaxy to be interconnected together. And she hopes that the Starlight Beacon is so successful that it is just the first beacon of many. And when I was reading that part, I couldn't help but think that that's a little bit of Charles Soule kind of advertising the High Republic inside the High Republic, because he's like, guys, me and all these talented people had this great idea for creating this new way to make Star Wars interconnected. And this is just the first, hopefully, of many. I mean, it's so meta, and it's so good for being so meta. Bravo. What is the plot of this? I think we already got the gist of it from what they released over the past months while we were quarantined together. But basically, there is a disaster in hyperspace where a ship gets destroyed mid-hyperspace, and then pieces of it start shooting out of hyperspace, basically like bullets from a gun. And those pieces are in danger of hitting planets and moons and settlements. And if they hit those places, people die. So the Jedi are trying to figure out how to predict where these pieces will emerge from hyperspace so they can stop any deaths before they happen. And what I like is the first incident, which they call these, every time a piece of the ship comes out of hyperspace and threatens to blow something up, that's called an emergence. The first emergence, just the first one, takes up about a third of this book because it's such a big deal. That made me happy. When I was like a third of the way through, I think I was 100 pages in, maybe more, and I was still like, for example, just to give you an idea without too many spoilers here, see chapter 11, it says there 40 minutes to impact. Impact is the first emergence finally happening. So the book is kind of counting you down to this big thing's going to happen, it's going to change the galaxy, and it takes over 11 chapters to get to that point. And I really like that. It feels like they're taking their time. It feels like they are setting up a whole lot of bowling pins for more than one game of bowling. And we know there's more than one story coming down the pipeline. They even advertise the second book right there in the back. Stay tuned for book 2, kids. I would say the story is not my favorite story in a Star Wars book. I think that would still go to Alphabet Squadron, but the story is still phenomenal. And it's not the story that I think is my favorite aspect of this, but it's, like I said, the layout of the world building and how much it's pushing at you and trusting you to understand and be like, look, this is all going to play a part. You know, nobody read A New Dawn and thought, ooh, we got to keep track of Skelly. You know, Skelly's going to be hot. With this, every character I met, I was like, I got to keep track of them. They're going to be important. And I knew they were going to be important because everything took its time. See the Wookiee? Burryaga Agaburi, he has 2 scenes in this book, and they're not very long either. And in one of them, he's not even really present. He's just sort of in a spaceship flying around with his Jedi Master, and we kind of hear him complain about something for a bit, and then that's it, he's gone. But that gave me so much hope for this franchise, because we know Burryaga is going to be a character. We know he plays a part. He does something in here that's very important, that moves the plot forward, but he's only in 2 scenes. And I like that, because that tells me, hey, slow down, guys. The story is not just contained to this. This story is going to be spread out like butter on bread. You're not just going to have a huge dollop of butter on one corner of the toast, and then the rest of it is dry, Skelly. No, you're going to have the butter spread evenly. So Burryaga, if you didn't want to know this, again, maybe mute yourself because this is a minor spoiler. Burryaga does not die in this book, because we know he has plenty more to do. And all the characters that we meet, and we meet a bunch, they all have plenty more to do. And I can't wait to see what that is. There's a character that they showed off a lot in the concept art, basically almost as much as Avar Kriss here, and his name was Stellan Gaios. He was a male Jedi, just like a dude Jedi, and he had a crossguard blue lightsaber, and he looked really cool. He is in this book at the very end in a cameo for about a sentence, where Avar is walking through a place, and she sees a bunch of Jedi, and she's like, oh, and there's Stellan Gaios. He was having a drink and speaking to somebody, and that's it. And that is so cool, because we know Stellan Gaios is going to be a character. We know he's a big deal, but they're just setting up the bowling pins, baby. They're just letting us know these people exist, placing them in areas where we know they're going to be important. They're setting such a grand stage that I've never felt Star Wars be more ambitious than this. I really haven't. Especially when we're used to books where everybody was handcuffed. Where it's like, we can't tell you what Leia was doing before Force Awakens. We can't tell you what Leia's doing during Force Awakens, but we can tell you a random story that's not going to matter about what Leia was doing after Empire, I guess. And that was sort of the handcuffed mentality of Star Wars canon during the sequel era, unfortunately. That's all in the past now, and now it's all about telling the stories we want to hear, making the galaxy feel bigger, and making the galaxy feel, as the Chancellor puts it, supremely connected. There's a great line of dialogue that they keep using throughout this, that is, we are all the Republic. That's the Chancellor's motto. It doesn't matter if you live in the highest tower on Coruscant, or if you're some dirt farmer in a world in unknown regions where nobody has even been to that world except you. We are all the Republic. And if we can put our lives on the line to save that dirt farmer, because that dirt farmer is in peril, we're going to do it, because he matters too. We are all the Republic. And that beautiful message really feels, again, like it's a meta claim, and it's encompassing this thing where it's like everything that comes out, every tiny little book, every comic that's meant for children is all Star Wars, and it's all going to matter. Everything matters. So if you're familiar with my high ground tactics, what I do is I assign, not a ranking, but I tell you if a book is either a crucial puzzle piece to canon, or it's just extra pieces, just fun little side stuff. Moving Target is extra pieces. You didn't need to know this story, but it's fun. It's got Leia in it. It's got 9 Numb in it. Why not? It's extra pieces. When it comes to these 2 books, it's hard to clarify right now because we don't know where the High Republic story is going. But I would say, for now, just right now in January 2021, A Test of Courage is extra pieces, because the encounter these kids have with the Nile and everything going on is very peripheral. And the kids themselves are very peripheral. They feel like everybody is a kid of somebody who is more important. So I'll call that extra pieces for now. But for all we know, this story is going to matter in the future, which is something we've never had to consider in canon before. Nobody was thinking, Skelly may be important later. Light of the Jedi, I mean, it's obvious this is a crucial puzzle piece. This is the first step on the journey that is going to teach us about the High Republic, which, from the looks of things, is going to be the most interconnected, dense piece of Star Wars lore we've ever gotten. And that has been High Ground on High Republic. I hope you found my little review illuminating Skelly for President 2024. Until next time, scumbags, may the force of others be with you.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.